How do you train your hands and your feet to be more resistant to the cold? Ever since winter has come, the snow has fallen, I've gotten tons of requests to talk about this, especially since I've been posting videos of me working out on my bare feet in the snow, and people are like, how do you do this? How are your feet capable of withstanding that cold without getting hurt or without feeling a lot of pain? Well, I want to share with you in this video a very simple but a very profound practice to not only make your hands and feet more resilient to the cold, but also to practice some deep inner awareness and to take up this meditative practice to get to know a little bit more about how your biological system works. Now, as a biohacker, of course, I'm always profoundly interested in how our biology works. And when it comes to thermoregulation, which is the system with which your body regulates your temperature in relation to the outside environment, there are a lot of very interesting things that are coming into play, like metabolism, for example, or even brown fat tissue. And something that is often overlooked is the beautiful, beautiful workings of our circulatory system. The cold and the heat, so temperature changes, are an amazing way to train our circulatory system. So imagine that every part of your body where you could bleed, basically, there is vascular tissue. There are capillaries running through every millimeter of your skin, for example. Now, as soon as you go into the cold, like for example, your hands or your feet, they touch the cold, then what is going to happen is that capillary tissue, which are basically like little tubes, these little tubes, they are going to constrict. They're going to constrict the amount of blood that flows into that tissue. This is, of course, a genius mechanism where your body understands that, hey, this outside temperature is colder than my inside temperature, so I should not have as much warm blood flowing to this place because that's where I will lose the heat. So in order to make sure you maintain your body temperature, you will have this vasoconstriction response, pushing the warm blood back more to the core of the body. And then, of course, you've noticed that if you go into a very hot place, like into a sauna or on a very hot day, your skin gets flushed with red, right? You start to look red, which means that your these same little tubes, right, these capillaries, they have dilated, they have relaxed, which allows more blood to flow to the surface of the skin, where you can lose more of that heat if you are too hot, right? So when you get colder, vasoconstriction, warm blood goes to the core. When you get warmer, vasodilation, warm blood goes to the extremities where it can lose heat. It's a genius system and it's always working for you. Now, if we spend our lives in temperature-controlled rooms and we're always comfortable, then our circulatory system does not have a lot of challenges, which means it doesn't have a lot of reason to switch between constricting and dilating, contract, relax. So what we really want is for our circulatory system to be very, very flexible, especially in these peripheral parts of our body, like, for example, the skin and in the extremities. Because we have 100,000 kilometers of vascular tissue of these beautiful blood vessels running through our body, and the more capable they are of contracting when they need to and relaxing when they need to, the more flexible our circulatory system will be. And of course, our circulatory system is a very core foundation of our overall health. Anyway, as soon as you touch the cold with your hands or your feet, of course, you get this vascular response, and a lot of people aren't used to it. What you also get is, of course, you get your nervous system who wants to pull away from it. And because your hands and your feet are basically antennae, right, as soon as you touch something that might be dangerous or scary, you get this desire to pull away from it, right, because it's an antenna. You feel something and you want to pull away from it. And wanting to pull away, that signal is, of course, communicated through pain. So it can be very painful to put your hands in the cold. And this is also something that you can work with, which you can do beautiful practices with. I've worked with people even with chronic pain, where just working with their hands or feet in the cold has allowed them to get a completely different view of how pain works in their body. Now, to keep it very simple today, just imagine your capillaries want to do contract, relax, and they need to get some training for that. And we need to train ourselves to trust that our body will regulate itself through this vascular response, and also that this pain that we're feeling is not necessarily damaged. But for that, we need to very slowly progress into training with the cold so that we can understand the difference between pain and actual damage, because we do not want to damage our feet. And if you are excited about cold training and you're going outside to train with the cold in winter days like this, always be very careful, take it step by step, because one thing that happens, of course, with less blood and with the cold is that you get numbness, so you don't realize that you might be damaging your feet. Especially, by the way, when they're putting all these salts on the, these anti-frost things on the roads. Do not walk barefoot in those. I've seen some pretty bad things happen when people walk barefoot in those. Anyway, there's a very simple practice that you can do, which is basically sauna training for your hands and your feet. And all you need is two very simple buckets, whatever fits your hands or your feet. And I'm just going to show you, because these are glass so you can see my hands. I'm just going to do it with one hand. One bucket over here, this one is lukewarm water. So this is in a normal room temperature, slightly warm to the touch, but it's definitely not hot, okay? And this one is tap water, which I'm now going to make colder by adding some snow. And of course, I can also put my hands directly in the snow, but I want to make a nice little sludge. So I've got this cold sludge right now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to give myself contrast therapy training, which simply means I'm going to put my hands in the ice cold water for 10 seconds, and immediately I feel the pain, immediately I feel that my capillaries want to constrict, and I can even feel, my nerves in my arm getting kind of stressed, like what's going on? We should pull away from this. And what I'm also noticing is that my neck muscles and shoulder muscles are trying to make contracting pulling motions, which is interesting. I'll get to in a second. That was about 10 seconds. After that, I'm going to take my hand out of the cold water for another about 10 seconds. So I want it to acclimatize to the outside temperature. Normally I would do this inside, but for the setting of this video, I decided to do the video outside in the snow, but do this at room temperature. Give that about 10 seconds, and then give it about 10 seconds in the lukewarm water. It's a wonderful feeling, by the way. I'm just doing one hand at a time, but of course you can do two hands at a time, grab a bigger bucket, and this also works for your feet. Now, as I'm going back and forth, I'll maybe do, if I, when I started out, I was doing a training session, I might do 5 repetitions, right? So that's done. That was about 10 seconds again. Just going to give it about 10 seconds to acclimatize to the outside air, and then I'm going to put it in there again, right? Actually, I'm going to do my other hand now, because otherwise I'll be very neurotic. So, like I said, as soon as I go into this ice cold water, I can also notice my muscles contract a little bit. Of course, your body wants to pull away from this. It wants to be like, pull away. So as soon as you start training with your feet and your hands in the cold, be very meditative with this. Really take this as an opportunity to learn how your body autonomically regulates the constriction and dilation of these vessels. Because I promise you, if you pay a lot of attention in this process, and you really sit with it and breathe with it, breathe through your nose, and also study the responses that you're making internally, you're going to learn a lot about yourself, because this is also pain training. So then you can also ask in the meantime, instead of just doing this in front of the TV and just watching a show, just sit and meditate and ask yourself, how do I respond to pain? How do I respond to cold? Because this is a very important thing, to have this inner line of awareness between your mind and body, where you really understand how you respond to pain and discomfort, and also how your body does these beautiful autonomic processes. Through this process, I have trained my feet to be able to withstand a long duration of cold. My longest time in the cold, I don't like telling people times, because it's not about any goal. It's not about reaching any certain time. But I've been out with my bare feet on the snow for about 40-45 minutes, and it took me about 10 minutes to recover, and I was completely fine, and my feet felt completely charged. Now, this is not a goal. Please, just a minute or two is enough to get all of the benefits that you want. The point is that we want to sit with it, and we want to very slowly allow our body to progress. So this is training, right? So we need to have an amount of training that our body can easily recover from. So I might do 5 or 6 repetitions of this in a day, and then the next day do it again, and the next day do it again. Especially if you have these really bad, winter hands, or icy feet, or snowy balls. Sorry. Oh. All right, that's my favorite joke. Anyway, if you have these very bad winter hands, you get on your bike in the winter, you step out, and immediately you get very painful hands. And this is a great process to start with. Now, of course, as snow falls and people are getting excited about being outside in the cold and in the snow, everybody wants to run outside on their feet. And of course, yeah, then you're not going to be able to last more than 10 or 20 seconds. That makes perfect sense. So if you add this to your training, you will start to see benefits. And this is not just, I mean, this seems like a very simple training protocol, like barely anything is happening, but a lot is happening on the inside. For example, through this process, I've been able to warm my hands and feet up at will. So if I'm in the cold, one time I was on a mountain, I was guiding a group, we were in a snowstorm, somebody got in a little bit of trouble, and my hands were really cold and I had to help this person, and I could will my hands, through understanding this process at some level, will my hands to be warm in that moment. Right? I've even worked with, for example, professional surfers or swimmers who would have training. So these are people who are highly trained, right? So they already have so much training, they're so healthy, and they still have these really cold hands, and all they did was simple contrast buckets, and they would improve their circulation to the point that they could, swim or use their surfboard without their hands cramping up anymore, which is a huge performance gain. So there's a lot to this, but it's so simple. 10 minutes per day, 10 seconds here, 10 seconds there, 10 seconds in the air in between, and then slowly, based on how you feel, you can progress if you like, right? So you can do 20 seconds, 20 here, up to 30 seconds or up to a minute. Just really follow your feelings and don't push yourself. Be careful. The cold is such a powerful force. Don't overdo it. Keep it relaxed. Let me know if this is helpful, and I hope to see you very soon. Enjoy the practice. Peace out.